Can you talk a little bit more about just your faith journey? Because I feel like you said you wanted to start doing more missionary work and more
Mhm.
help. Where did that come from? Where did that passion come from? Where God kind of gave you that revelation to even start doing that type of work?
Yeah, I think part of it was my dad grew up as a missions kid. You know, he lived in Nigeria when he was really young, and we grew up hearing stories about his time living in Africa and the mission field they were in. And then they would go to New York and to Texas, and they were always moving around. And to me, that was so fascinating. One, because I'm a full like obsessive traveler. I love traveling. If I can go to a different country, if I can go into a different culture and not just I don't vacation. I go straight for the heart of like where is the culture here and how do I get in it and where are the locals and where do we go as a local, you know? And I love telling those stories and hearing people's stories. And I think I had done a bit of missions work in Tunisia in 2015 during the ISIS crisis, so it was kind of uh, really intense, but also like really rewarding to go and work with orphanages there. And so I always had this pull. My whole family on my dad's side are also teachers. I adjunct at Lipscomb University now, and I love teaching, but I also love telling stories. And I think that there was it just seemed like a natural combo. Like, how do I show people what the mission field looks like? I mean, how do we bring people into these cultures, into these places where you can't go because of war or because of terrorism or like. And I love going to those places specifically if I can. And like, it sounds a bit dangerous. Maybe I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I don't know. But those are the places that I'm like, I want to go there and tell those stories. And how do I get there?
That's amazing. Just for you to have a heart to do that, because, like you say, everybody's not doing that. So I want to definitely give you your roses and salute to you because we need more passionate people who care about, especially when you talk about kids and disadvantaged kids who may not have opportunities that we have. So,
Hmm.
listen, I thank you for that. So, Sony picks the movie up. How
Yep.
did you go about picking the cast?
So my casting director sent me would send me options, and there was something I think the like everybody who's cast in this movie is just brilliant, and they were so wonderful to work with. And Mackenzie Mose, who's our main actress in this, she and I clicked immediately. And there's something about her, man. Like she steps into frame, and the frame just lights up, and you're just captivated. Like you just want to watch her everywhere. And that was one of the scariest parts about casting, because they're the face of your film, and this character is in every single scene. Like she never has a break. She's in the whole thing, and you have to want to watch her and be drawn to her. Um, and Mackenzie as a person is just so adventurous and open to anything, and we connected immediately as travelers. And it took a lot of her like trusting me to go over to Taiwan and to wait that long, and it was just a miracle. And she's the best thing we had, going. Um, and the same with Justin Chen. He's brilliant. I love working with him. He actually auditioned as the character of Horace, and I literally didn't know he could speak English. I slowed
Mm.
down the audition because I'm like, man, this guy doesn't know what I'm saying. And then later I found out he doesn't even have an accent. He's American. And I'm like, cast him like Bridges, like. I mean, and having Leanne Morgan as well on the cast, and Madison McLaughlin, like all of these characters and people we have are just so beautiful, and they work so well on the screen. And in Taiwan as well, like we had casting in Taiwan was really interesting. We had Michael Huang, who's our principal character, and he is he's so much. He brings so much to the film and so much energy. And he apparently was famous in Taiwan. I didn't know that, but everybody else was like, "Oh my gosh, we need his autograph!" He's so cool. But casting the kids was probably the most challenging of the whole movie because you got 15 of them in there, I think. And we hit this education is really important in Taiwan, and we kind of came up against this wall of like, well, there's no way you're going to get eighth graders, right? Because they're all in school and they can't take off. Um, so actually, everybody in film is much older, as kids wise, and um, but they just knock it out of the park, but it was really wild because they're my age, and you're talking to them like they're kids because you got to think like, okay, they're these are kids, um, and it was just it was a wild time, but the casting really makes your movie, and the whole cast was just brilliant.
What was the writing process for you? Like, to walk us through just your creative process for just even writing this script and being bold enough to share your faith and wanting a faith component in this movie.
I think I've always been passionate about trying to connect secular and Christian audiences. I've never really seen it done well in movies, I don't think, and it was something that I really wanted to strive to do. I wanted to present an accurate picture of our walk with God through a film that could be digestible by both sides. Um, I think that we sometimes have this idea that like we like I call it like a Jesus box. Um, and we were like, well, it'll just wrap itself all up in a bow and be, and I don't think God works that way. And I wanted to convey my own kind of personal like ups and downs. I think everybody has their like sometimes you're on a high and you're good and you're really like on fire, and sometimes you're like, I don't trust anything. I have zero faith right now and everything's good. And I really wanted to get the realism of that kind of journey.